Hey, you can put your phone down and start wiping. I've got you covered. A few weeks ago, I finished watching Bridgerton and the spin-off Queen Charlotte show, and I'm going to talk at you about it from memory. I don't know if this is a review or just my thoughts or a recap. I don't know, but spoilers for the entire show. Cool. All right. Season 1 and premise. Bridgerton. It's like an alt history British drama with a bunch of British socialites who are all trying to fuck. Sorry, scratch that. They're all trying to get their children to fuck. The show is about the babies that that grow up and then they need to get married to make babies, right? And so the show is about the adults trying to get them wed. Each season kind of follows like a specific character throughout their journey of like getting courted and ultimately finding love, etc., etc. And the queen is rad and wears huge wigs constantly. Her hair is just absurd. There's literally a scene, I don't remember what season this is, there's a scene where the queen has a wig that has like a diorama in it. There's like lights and like mechanical figures that are spinning, or like a music box or something. It's amazing. And then the show also features Lady Danbury, who is the single greatest character ever put onto a television show in the history of all time. She's like if Uncle Iroh was a storied old black woman with an impeccable hat game, and she runs it. It's amazing. Anyway, season 1, it follows Daphne, who is one of the daughters of the Bridgerton family, and she is hot. I don't think that's actually okay to say. Here's the problem. The show takes place in the times where they were like, hey, girl, you're 11, you're ready to marry. And so they want you to follow these cute relationships with these people until you remember that like, oh, they're like 15, I think? Like, I know it's fantasy, I know it's fictional, but there's like straight up on-screen sex scenes right after they establish that they're under 18. That's a little bit much for me. But ultimately, Daphne meets a dude who's hot. The dude who's hot is like, I don't want kids because I hate my dad, and I swore to my dad that I wouldn't continue his bloodline. But then he ends up like being in with Daphne, and the two of them are like, haha, we're gonna run a scheme where we're not actually together, but we're gonna make everybody think we're together so that nobody bothers us. And then they fall in love, but then they are mad at each other because they're like lying to each other constantly and withholding secrets and stuff. But then they get over it. And babies. Oh, also there's like a random like essay scene right towards the end of season 1 that I didn't love, but I get it. But also, do we really need this for storytelling? Just in general, TV shows, can we just not? Season 2 was about the oldest boy, the oldest Bridgerton boy, who is like, I have to get married because it's my duty to this family. Anyway, he's like upset that he has to get married because he just wants to like fuck random people all the time, which he can still do. Like, there's everyone else in this show is married and just fucks everybody else. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he's out and about one day and there's a hot girl on a horse and he's like, damn, that girl's on a horse and she's hot. Anyway, he does some horse flirting with hot horse girl, but then it turns out hot horse girl is not eligible. She's not here to find a match. She's here to find a match for her sister. And then through a bunch of complicated stuff, her sister gets like elevated into stardom, and then big boy Bridgerton boy is supposed to marry sister, but he's in love with horse sister, and he can't get over his feelings. It's like a hate love. They hate each other, but hate is close to love, that kind of a thing. So they're like constantly up in each other's faces, and they're constantly like, I hate you. But also the entire time that you're watching season 2, the entire time that you watch season 2, it's just like, fuck already, come on. It genuinely was too much. Like, it was like, I enjoyed this show, but all of season 2 was just these two characters love-hating each other. And then they do fuck, and they are like, we shouldn't have done that. And it's like, yes, you should have. Just do it again. And then do it routinely, and baby. That's what they end up doing, by the way. They got married in the end. They got married, babies. The Queen Charlotte spinoff now occurs, I think, in the timeline. I didn't check, but the vibe, it seems like it takes place between season 2 and 3. The Queen Charlotte spinoff, it follows the queen with the cool hair and her origin story, how she met King George, who in this time period, it's Mad King George the third. So it goes into how they met. She was essentially imported to become the queen. I should note at this point that the queen is black. Like, the alt history thing is that there's a whole lot of like black lords and whatnot, which I didn't like this next part. In all of Bridgerton, there's this alt history thing going on. There's people of all races and creed and whatnot. That's fine. I can just accept that. You don't need to explain it. If you're doing an alt history story, you don't need to explain why it has diverged from normal history. It can just be fiction. But in the Queen Charlotte story, they talk about why there are black people that have lordships and whatnot. And they make it a whole race thing. Like the entire show is about race, and that's fine. I just don't think that it needed to be a compelling story. Like Queen Charlotte is this rad character. And like Lady Danbury, does her origin story too. She's also a rad character. But instead of giving them a chance to just be rad, the plot is primarily about securing the rights for black lords who were just recently given their titles and ensuring that the white monarchy maintains their lordship, as well as the romance between Charlotte and George. I just feel like they didn't need to do that. Like, it's cool, it's a good story, and it's great that they're like, hey, racism bad. Also, I feel like we know racism bad, and I feel like there just could have been more done if the focus was on just the characters being them. That is besides the point. The Queen Charlotte spinoff was excellent overall, and the finale ruined my heart. You're watching the beginnings of the end for King George. You're watching him struggle so much with his mental health that he is falling apart at the seams before he even has a chance to live his life. And you're watching Charlotte, who's been thrust into this just completely new world and just became the Queen of England out of nowhere, married to a man she doesn't know, who's losing his mind. But she supports him in every way she can. And like, not out of a gross sense of obligation way, but out of a, I care about you, and it's me and you versus the world. It does not matter who you are you to me. It's extremely sweet. I don't actually want to spoil the ending of it, but I'm never gonna think about the underside of a bed the same way. Season 3. The fuck was season 3? Oh, season 3, they import a character, a new Bridgerton girl, and she's definitely autistic. She essentially is like, hey, I like the pianoforte. And then people are like, okay, cool. What else you got going on? She's like, I like the pianoforte. So she's going out and about. Everybody's like, ooh, she's hot. She's a Bridgerton, trying to get on this. Doesn't work. She likes the pianoforte. She eventually meets a boy who's very, very quiet, and the two of them like being quiet together, and it's adorable. And yeah. I forgot to mention, there's this little plot line that is the plot line of the entire show, where there is a gossip writer named Lady Whistledown who comments on everything that's happening throughout the entire show. She's a combination narrator and character, and the Queen is like going toe-to-toe with Lady Whistledown because the Queen lives for gossip and wants to be on top, and Lady Whistledown is challenging her in that. So there's been a character this whole time that I forgot to talk about, named Penelope. And she is the like ugly duckling character for a house that is not all that well loved. And ultimately, turns out she's Lady Whistledown. So this like young girl who is like the most unseen in a family of unseen people finds this outlet that's so powerful that the Queen of England is spending the whole show trying to hunt her down. Season 3 is sort of her like coming into her own and then ultimately being revealed as Whistledown and owning it. And she finally gets to get with her like childhood crush. I'm gonna be honest here. I'm gonna be honest. This is not a complaint. This is not a complaint in the slightest. But it's very difficult to ignore the fact that this show is super obviously geared towards women. Now hold on here. Like hold on. It's not a problem. I enjoyed the show. But like season 3 was very much, I liked it a lot. And also, it couldn't have been more of a self-insert character if they tried. Penelope is the overlooked obvious choice. She's portrayed as ugly even though she's actually really hot. And then like is portrayed as useless even though she's ridiculously intelligent. And the guy that she's into suddenly becomes the gem that all of the girls want to get with because he has a glow up. And she's like, oh, well, now I'll never have a chance. And then ultimately he realizes that he's always had feelings for her and he can't get her out of his head and falls over head over heels for her, all that stuff. It's like the obvious, that's me. That and every sex scene, they go down on the woman. That's not a dig. Do that, right? That's good. That's definitely coded for women. I'm very used to watching sex scenes where it's just 0 to as quickly as possible. So in a way, like, I'm not complaining, I'm just acknowledging, and it's kind of refreshing, but boy howdy, it didn't matter when or where, they just woohoo! They went to Coochie Town. So in the end, Penelope was whistled down, Queen Charlotte outed her. I'm failing to remember if there are more plot points that matter. There probably are, but the real plot points are Queen Charlotte's hair and Lady Danbury's hats. So, hope you finished wiping. Bye-bye.